What would your life look like right now if you had never taken the easy road? Sit with that question for a moment. Not the polished version of it, not the comfortable answer you rehearse when someone asks about your goals. The real answer. The honest one that lives in the quiet space between who you are and who you keep telling yourself you'll become. Most men never ask themselves that question, and that is precisely where the decay begins. There is a sickness spreading through the modern man, not a sickness of the body, but of the will. It is the sickness of comfort, the sickness of distraction, the sickness of choosing what is easy over what is necessary, what feels good over what builds something real. It is the slow, invisible rot that comes when a man stops demanding greatness of himself and begins negotiating with mediocrity instead. Miyamoto Musashi watched men die for hundreds of years, on battlefields, in duels, in the gutters of their own wasted potential, and he distilled everything he learned about strength, discipline, and the art of being a man into a philosophy so ruthless, so uncompromising, so brutally honest that most modern men would flinch from it before they finished the first page. He called it the Book of 5 Rings. But embedded in his philosophy, especially in the Dokkodo, the 21 precepts he wrote 9 days before his death, is something far more personal, far more confrontational. A direct challenge to every man who has ever made peace with his own weakness and called it wisdom. This is not a motivational essay. This is not here to make you feel good. This is Musashi's mirror, and you are about to look into it. The lie of the comfortable life. Before we go further, understand something. Musashi was not theoretical. He did not write from a university chair or a cozy room. He wrote from 60 years of relentless, unflinching engagement with life in its most unforgiving form. He fought his first duel at 13. He fought over 60 duels and never lost a single one. He slept in forests, trained in the rain, sharpened his mind the way he sharpened his blade, every single day, without exception, without complaint, without the luxury of excuses. And the thing that made him different from other warriors of his era was not talent. It was not even technique. It was that he refused, categorically, almost violently, to be comfortable. Modern men have made a god of comfort. We worship it. We optimize our lives around it. We buy it in subscriptions and streaming services and delivery apps. We anesthetize ourselves with convenience until we can no longer feel the edges of our own potential. And then, quietly, without ceremony, we wonder why we feel like something is missing. Why we feel soft in ways that have nothing to do with the body. Musashi's first answer to the weak man is also his most savage. You chose this. Nobody made you small. Nobody stole your discipline while you slept. You handed it away, piece by piece, every time you chose the couch over the cold, the scroll over the study, the snooze button over the sunrise. Weakness is not a condition. It is a habit. And habits, unlike destiny, can be broken. The first precept, accept nothing without examination. Musashi wrote, do not act following customary beliefs. This is not an invitation to rebellion for its own sake. It is something far more demanding. It is a call to think, to question, to examine every assumption you carry about who you are, what you are capable of, and why you live the way you do. Most men operate on inherited beliefs. They believe they need 8 hours of sleep because they were told so. They believe they cannot wake up at 5 in the morning because they have never truly tried. They believe they are not disciplined enough, not strong enough, not smart enough. Not because they tested these beliefs against reality, but because the belief arrived before the test ever did. Musashi rejected this completely. He was suspicious of comfort. He was suspicious of custom. He was suspicious of anything that had not been proven through direct, personal experience, through the fire of actual effort. The weak man believes he has limits he has never approached. He builds fences around himself using other people's experiences, other people's failures, other people's fears. He calls these fences wisdom. Musashi would call them cowardice with better vocabulary. Start there. Start with examination. Look at the walls of your life and ask, with absolute honesty, did I build these, or did I simply stop walking when I found them? Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Perhaps the most countercultural thing Musashi ever wrote, especially when viewed through the lens of the 21st century, was this: do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Read that again. Not don't enjoy life. Not punish yourself. But do not make pleasure the point. Do not make comfort the destination. This is the core wound of the modern man. We have built entire economies around the pursuit of pleasure. Instant pleasure, frictionless pleasure, pleasure on demand. And we have forgotten that pleasure, when it becomes the goal rather than the occasional reward, corrodes the soul in ways that are almost impossible to detect until it is too late. The man who trains only when he feels like it will never be great at anything. The man who eats whatever he wants because life is short is not embracing life. He is surrendering to it. The man who refuses discomfort is not free. He is enslaved to his own appetites, and the chains are invisible precisely because they are made of things that feel good. Musashi trained in winter rivers. He reportedly went without bathing for extended periods to remove vanity from his practice. He slept with minimal shelter. Not because these things were virtuous in themselves, but because he understood something that most men will spend their whole lives avoiding. The capacity to endure discomfort is the foundation of every form of human greatness. You cannot build a business when you cannot sit with boredom. You cannot build a body when you cannot sit with pain. You cannot build a life of meaning when you flee from every moment that fails to entertain you. The discipline to do what is necessary, regardless of how it feels, is not a personality trait. It is a skill. And like every skill, it is built through practice, through deliberately choosing the hard thing when the easy thing is available. The laziness that kills men slowly. Here is what laziness actually looks like in the life of a modern man. It does not look like lying on a couch eating chips, though it can be that too. It looks like staying in a job you hate because updating your resume feels overwhelming. Staying in a relationship that is killing you because the conversation about leaving feels too hard. Having the same dream for 7 years and never taking a single step toward it because the first step requires more courage than you currently have. Reading about the life you want instead of building it. Talking about the person you intend to become instead of doing the things that person would do. This is the lazy man Musashi is addressing. Not the obviously idle man, but the man who is busy with the wrong things. The man who fills his hours with motion and mistakes it for progress. The man who confuses exhaustion with effort. Musashi's philosophy demands a reckoning with your time. Not in a productivity guru sense, not color-coded planners and 5-minute journals, but in the deepest possible sense. What are you actually doing with the hours of your life, and is it building towards something real? Because the clock is not stopping. The years are not waiting. And the most brutal truth Musashi leaves us with is this: time wasted in laziness is not recovered. It is simply gone. The man you could have been by 40 does not wait for you to be ready at 50. He ceases to exist the moment you stop reaching toward him. Resentment, jealousy, and the weapons of the weak. Do not be resentful or jealous of others. This precept is not just moral instruction. It is strategic observation. Resentment is the emotion of a man who has given up on his own journey and replaced it with obsession over someone else's. The man who burns with jealousy at another man's success is not just unpleasant to be around, he is structurally incapable of building his own greatness, because all the energy that should be going into his own craft is being redirected into bitterness. Musashi watched this destroy men. He watched warriors who were technically skilled lose duels because they were fighting from anger, from wounded ego, from the desperate need to prove something to someone other than themselves. He understood that the emotional state of the warrior was as important as the technical skill of the warrior, that a man consumed by resentment had already surrendered the most important battlefield before the fight began. The weak man is always watching other men. He is watching what they have, what they've achieved, who they are with, how they carry themselves. And instead of using that observation as fuel, as data about what is possible, he uses it as evidence that the world is unfair, that the deck is stacked, that it is not his fault. Musashi has no patience for this. His entire life was an argument against it. He came from nothing. He had no prestigious lineage, no wealthy patron in his early years, no system built to support him. He built himself, through obsession, through practice, through the absolute refusal to make his circumstances the explanation for his limitations. Stop watching other men. Start building. The man you envy does not need your resentment, and you cannot afford it. The path of forging the mind and body. Train more than you sleep. This may be apocryphal, but it captures Musashi's core conviction. The man who does not invest relentlessly in the development of himself is already decaying. The word Musashi uses in the Book of Five Rings is tanrin, forging. The same word used for the process of making a Japanese sword. And it is deliberate, because a sword is not born strong. It is hammered. It is heated and beaten and hammered again. It is folded over itself thousands of times until the impurities are gone and only the strength remains. This is what Musashi believed the human being must do to himself. You must forge the body, not to look good for pictures, but because the physical body is the foundation of everything else. A soft body produces a soft mind. A man who cannot endure physical discomfort will not endure the emotional and psychological discomfort that genuine ambition requires. The gym, the run, the cold water, these are not vanity. They are practice in overcoming the self. You must forge the mind, not with passive consumption, but with active engagement. Read difficult things. Sit with problems that have no easy answers. Learn skills that make you feel incompetent before they make you capable. Study history. Study strategy. Study philosophy. Not to collect talking points, but to genuinely change how you see the world and your place in it. You must forge the spirit, the part of you that decides, every single day, whether you will be the author of your life or the audience of it. Musashi meditated. He practiced calligraphy. He painted, not as hobbies, but as extensions of the same discipline that made him lethal with a sword, because he understood that the way is not compartmentalized. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Do not fear death, fear the life unlived. The most radical thing Musashi ever said, the thing that separates his philosophy from every self-help framework ever produced, is the centrality of death. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Accept everything just the way it is. Do not regret what you have done. These precepts only make sense when you understand that Musashi was a man who lived in constant proximity to death, who had made peace with it completely, and who therefore could not be controlled by the fear of it. And because he was not controlled by the fear of death, he was not controlled by the fear of anything smaller. Embarrassment, failure, rejection, the judgment of lesser men. The lazy man is afraid, not of death specifically, but of the things that feel like death, the small daily deaths of trying and failing, of putting yourself out there and being found wanting, of starting something that might not work, of caring about something that might not love you back. He avoids these small deaths by avoiding the effort that might lead to them. And in doing so, he dies the real death, not the quick death of a warrior on a battlefield, but the long, slow, quiet death of a man who never found out what he was capable of. Musashi would rather you fail spectacularly than succeed in being mediocre. He would rather you fight with everything you have and lose than win a battle you never fully entered. Because at least in the fight, at least in the full, committed, relentless engagement with life, you are alive. You are real. You are a man. The simple, brutal practice. So what does Musashi's philosophy demand in practical terms? It is not complicated. It was never complicated. Complexity is what the weak man hides behind. Wake up before you want to. Do the work before you feel like it. Train the body when it protests. Feed the mind when it would rather be entertained. Keep your word to yourself, especially when no one is watching, especially when there is no external accountability, especially when every comfortable instinct you have is telling you to stop. Stop making deals with your own weakness. Stop negotiating with the part of you that wants to stay small. Musashi wrote the Dokkodo, his final instructions to humanity, when he was 60 years old, days before his death. He had nothing to prove. No duels left to fight. No reputation left to build. And the thing he chose to leave behind was not a record of his victories or a celebration of his achievements. It was a warning, a challenge, a direct, unvarnished instruction to future men about the only things that actually matter. He did not say be comfortable. He did not say find balance. He did not say be kind to yourself when you fall short. He said, do not be lazy in the way of strategy. He said, do not let the body be idle. He said, become acquainted with every art. He said, know the ways of all professions. He said, do not do anything that is useless. These are not suggestions. They are the distilled observations of a man who spent 60 years testing what makes a human being great, and what makes them waste the only life they will ever have. The question you started with. Come back to the question now. What would your life look like if you had never taken the easy road? You know the answer. You have always known the answer. The version of you that trained every day, that read instead of scrolled, that did the hard thing instead of the comfortable one, that had the difficult conversation instead of letting things rot, that started the business, finished the book, built the body, cultivated the mind. That version of you is not gone. He is not a fantasy. He is what remains when you strip away the laziness, the excuses, the comfortable lies you have been telling yourself about why now is not the right time. Musashi's advice is not gentle. It was never meant to be. Gentleness is for men who have already done the work. For men who have already forged themselves in the fire of real discipline and earned the right to rest. For everyone else, for the man who has been drifting, negotiating, postponing, softening, there is only one instruction that matters. So, wake up. Begin. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when circumstances align and the universe offers you a clean, comfortable on-ramp to the life you want. With whatever you have. From wherever you are. The sword is not forged in comfort. Neither are men,